What's going on, guys? This is the Edge DFS. This is the Showdown show for Saturday Night Football. Dolphins visiting the Raiders. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, how was your Christmas? And the biggest question is, did you have Alvin Kamara at captain?
So I had one lineup with Alvin Kamara at captain, but I don't know, man. Like, he just ruined my night. I mean, what can he do, though? Like,
yeah,
I mean, we were right. Obviously, you wanted to have him in as many lineups as possible, but the problem is you can't really account for
something that hasn't happened in like 20-something years. Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, dude, that hadn't happened since 2003, the five touchdowns. Once you got to 6, the last time that was Gale Sayers, 1956.
Are you serious? Wait, 6? Really? Oh, Jesus. I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah, and then 7 was like 1923. So, it's pretty crazy up there. So,
I felt like we did a pretty good job. I felt pretty confident. Like, we were actually doing great up until that third and the fourth and then the fifth Kamara touchdown. That I was like, okay, we're not going to do well. And then Irv Smith Jr. scoring two touchdowns.
Yeah, on the 1 yard line, right? Like inside the 5, you're going to Irv Smith. I mean, that was insult to injury, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, we had Boone. We had Boone too. I had Boone. I had Boone in a single entry. I had a unique lineup. He was 0.6% owned. I think I was probably one of maybe a few people that had him, and I was feeling really good up until those multiple Kamara touchdowns, and I realized, you know what, because I instead of going Kamara at captain, I went a lot of my chalky lineups were Dalvin Cook at captain. I just figured, I was like, look, this is probably like I like the fact that Dalvin Cook doesn't have to split carries much. Like, I just thought that he had that opportunity to have one of those crazy games, but he didn't. But it's all right.
And look, we've been talking about this all year, but that was some of the worst play calling I've ever seen in an NFL game. If your offense is seeing 8-man fucking defensive boxes, like, and you have Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, I don't understand why you're not attempting a shot every drive, right? At some point, they're going to back one of those guys out of the box, and Dalvin Cook's going to rush for 4,000 yards. So, fuck Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, he should be fired. They need to bring
fired on touchdown 5.
They need to bring in a young offensive mind into that setup, because obviously the defense isn't doing. He's a defensive coach, and he's not getting the job done. So, anyways, guys,
not to get too. Hold on, I gotta get you. Not to get too derailed here. Did you know that the entire fucking Detroit coaching staff is out?
Really?
Like, yeah, bro. Like, they were just talking about it. They have like one guy who's kind of just sitting there on the sideline, like, what the fuck is going on?
Kind of makes sense. I mean, COVID
protocols, dude.
Jesus.
They wouldn't have been able to play tomorrow either. They would have had to sit up in the booth at the best. But anyways, this is kind of some of the performance.
Well, even if they had a full coaching staff, I don't think it would matter too much, because this team's terrible. I was not going to do a show on the Lions. There's no point. What's the point in us sitting here spending over an hour talking about a game that is literally going to be the biggest piece of shit game we've seen? It's probably I haven't even watched the game this morning because I don't give a shit. Is it like 47-7 still? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, Blaine Gabbert's tearing it up.
Oh, Blaine.
He started the second half.
Oh, my God. All right, guys. Sorry, guys. We're going to get right into this. We're recording this, obviously, on Saturday. It's about 12:30 my time. We're going to try to bust this out, upload it, premiere it for you guys so you can watch it while you're building for this late-night hammer game here. This is a triple header. Awesome to have this on a Saturday. It's pretty amazing, especially considering the holidays. So I feel like most people are at home watching these games. This is a pretty interesting one. We saw the Raiders underachieve it was last week, right? When they lost was that a Thursday night game against the Chargers?
Yeah. I don't know if it was. It was Thursday night.
I think it was Thursday. They had a shot there. Derek Carr pulled his groin running. And he should be back for this game. We haven't got official confirmation that he's starting. But look, this game here has some serious playoff implications here. All right? Either of these teams has a shot to make it. Las Vegas has a very slim shot, but they can still make the playoffs. Miami, if they win, they need a little bit of help, but they can make the playoffs. We're talking about
playoffs.
All right, so let's check out these numbers here. You got Miami visiting Las Vegas. Miami's 9-5. Vegas is 7-7. Miami is minus 133. with a 57% win probability. This is a very close game here. This is very tight. You got Miami -2 favorites. We're hovering right around a 50 over/under. It's at 49 as the time we record this. So tell me about what your thoughts on this. I mean, I know that Vegas is the home team here. Miami seems to be the better team, although Las Vegas has shown upside this year. This is pretty much a pick 'em at this point. I kind of like the Dolphins more in this game, considering what we've seen from Vegas. But Vegas has that upside. So what do you think about these numbers, and what do you think about the direction of this game?
I don't agree with this at all. I find it very interesting that this is kind of where we're sitting at as of right now. I don't think Las Vegas is going to keep this within a touchdown, and I'll probably end up betting on that at some point tonight. But this really shouldn't be a very close game. Miami's defense is much better than the Vegas offense, and they've been inconsistent. I understand Mariota's not a bad quarterback, and Derek Carr has been having a pretty decent year. And yeah, they might be able to put up some stats, but this is a team that specializes in pick sixes and takeaways and turning them into points. We'll get into it when we start getting into the quarterbacks, but I mean, Tua's not even putting up stats, and he's still a viable fantasy producer, and they're winning games. I think this is a bad matchup for Las Vegas for a couple of reasons. I mean, the Miami defense is good, but the Vegas defense is not good at all. Yeah. They have way too many injuries to overcompensate for it, and I just don't know if they're going to have the ability to do that. I get that the Miami offense is having a few issues, but if Myles Gaskin's back, if Gesicki's playing, if Parker's playing, I feel like there's too many weapons on that side of the ball with an athletic Tua that, I mean, -2 is kind of disrespectful. This should be closer to 3.5 for me, but that's where I'm at right now, and I'm with you. I think just given this projection, I can easily see where 3-3 stacks are probably going to dominate today. So yeah. I think I'm going to solely drive 4-2 all day long.
Miami, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to build today.
Yeah, this is an interesting game here for sure. We don't have ownership available yet. If we get some ownership information during the show, we'll be sure to throw it out there. But we've been pretty decent with guessing and getting pretty close. We've been doing enough showdown slates here that we back check our stuff. So we'll do a decent job to actually sort of throw out some guesses when it comes to who's the top owned captain. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of controversy there, but like middle range guys, we can kind of figure out. So let's move over to the injuries here. There's a lot of news here when it comes to Miami, so you got to keep an eye on things when inactives come out. Looks like Myles Gaskin, God damn it, Myles Gaskin, that's a weird name, is probable. He's coming off the COVID list, so he should play today. Keep an eye on that for sure, though. Mike Gesicki, questionable with a shoulder. He's been out for a minute. Devontae Parker, questionable with the shoulder. Is that right? Shoulder? Yeah, probably. Jakeem Grant, questionable with a hammy. So Gesicki, Parker, Grant. Obviously, Gesicki and Parker are big names here. I'm hoping that all these guys play. It seems like they're leaning towards playing, but obviously keep an eye on that. Derek Carr is probable. Pulled his dick muscle a minute ago. Seems to be okay in this game, so hopefully he just doesn't run the ball. Just stay in the pocket, throw the ball. And that's something to consider here with Derek Carr because he has the ability to get you some rushing yards. I don't know if they're going to want to use him or if he's going to be a little skittish when it comes to running the ball after that injury. Henry Ruggs is questionable. He could be coming off the COVID list, so keep an eye on him. He's always an interesting choice. So talk to me, Ellie. On the Miami side of the ball here, I think that's where the biggest news comes in. Gesicki, Parker, have you heard? Are they should play, right? They should play.
Yeah, I think they will. This game is pretty important for Miami. If they win this, they kind of will be in a position to essentially clinch that final playoff spot. And it looks like Baltimore may not be able to get it, but that's assuming that they win here.
Yeah.
And even if they lose to the Bills next week, they should still be good. So I think they're going to try and get anybody into this game that they possibly can. And, I mean, we see that with Gaskin coming back. I mean, granted, that was COVID, right? So I think it's a little bit different. But Gesicki, Parker, at least those two, I think we'll see a minimum of one. I think both will play, though. Devontae Parker is one of those guys who always has that Q tag next to him, whether it's his ankle, his shoulder, I don't know, his fucking hammy. It doesn't matter, right? He's one of those kind of top 15 receivers that's always going to have that Q tag. So I think we're fine with him. Jaceki is the one that I'm going to be really looking out for because I like him a lot on this slate, especially against a porous Vegas defense. So I think he opens up some value if he doesn't play.
Yeah.
And he becomes probably one of my favorite plays on the slate at his price if he does. So this is an important situation to keep an eye on. Jakeem Grant's interesting because he does have that top end speed that they use to kind of split the field up, right?
Yeah.
He's going to get involved on punt return, kick return. But he's going to line up in the slot and have opportunities for big plays. So, again, those, especially at the wide receiver group, that may impact the availability of Lynn Bowden Jr., who they've been trying to get the ball over the past couple of weeks. So, this is one we're going to have to pay attention to pretty much all night up until lock. On the Raiders side of the ball, I'm really not that interested in any of these, simply because I do not think this is a good matchup. I'm going to try and limit my exposure and balance out who I get from the offensive side of the ball over there. So I'm really not too concerned about whether or not Henry Ruggs plays. I just don't think anybody's in really a prime spot other than maybe Darren Waller against this Miami defense. But again, Miami's going to come prepared to stop him. So I'm looking more at the Miami side tonight.
Myles Gaskin is big news because there's a clusterfuck of Miami running backs, and it's hard to figure out. But when Myles Gaskin has played, he seems to be getting the lion's share of those carries, upwards, from 15 to 20 something carries a game. So I think with him coming back and the fact that he doesn't have I'm not going to downplay COVID, but if he's activated, that means he's most likely fully recovered from that. They're not going to rush him back from an illness like that. So it's not like he has a leg injury or some sort of issue like that. I think they're just going to plug him right in, especially considering this is a playoff game for Miami. Like these last two games for a lot of teams are must wins. So they're not going to just, let him chill on the sideline. And that opens it up to some discussion when we get to running back about who we can and who we can't play on both sides of the ball. All right, so let's just jump right into our breakdown here. Break it down. So we're starting out with the quarterbacks like we usually do. We're going to go position by position here, ending up with our fade of the night, our crown their ass segment, and then we're going to build a lineup together. So look, we've got Tua here at 10.4K. Not a bad price for him, considering. And then DraftKings helped us out here with the Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota, both at the exact same price. I kind of like that. I don't think we're going to have to worry about Mariota in this game. It would be a nice story for Mariota and Tua to play head-to-head on a Saturday night. Both went to the same high school in Hawaii. So, look, do we even need to consider Mariota at this point when we're building? Should we have just a backup plan? Because it's a pretty easy, universal swap if you absolutely had to on the DraftKings app. Yeah. But does that change anything? Like, look, if Mariota is going to get play time here, if they say that Derek Carr is not going to play this game or he's going to act as the backup just in case, does that change our entire game script?
I don't think it changes that much, but I will be a little bit more high on the quarterback position for the Raiders, right? Just because Marcus Mariota offers that rushing upside. Now, my only concern with him is I think teams are kind of prepared for that questionable tag next to Carr, and they may have spent a little bit more time preparing for Mariota. Yeah, it's one thing to come off the bench and fucking ball out. Yeah. It's another thing to kind of have teams prepare for you. And again, this is just too good of a defense. I don't know if it's really worth getting that crazy on. Yeah. But again, because they're priced exactly the same, I think just having a 1-for-1 ready to swap out is fine. But I think my exposure to that position is going to be probably 20-25% overall anyways. So interesting. It doesn't impact me too much.
What about Tua here? Like, is Tua a lock if you're going 4-2 and your game script works out that way where you think that the Dolphins can blow this game out? Well, maybe not blow it out, but they can score a lot of points and they can win by a touchdown or two. Do you have to have Tua in your lineups here? Because, look, I'm not gonna lie, it's not incredibly impressive here. You're talking about, you can probably bet on him getting around 14 to 17 fantasy points, and his ceiling is around 30, which is good. But this isn't Kyler Murray. This isn't Mahomes, or this isn't this guy doesn't have necessarily the rushing upside that we would like to see. So how do we handle Tua? Can you get different by possibly going under the field with Tua?
Yeah, I think that's an option. I don't think it's going to be much of an option in my particular build, simply because I'm going to be going so heavy on 4-2.
Yeah.
But I'm fading kind of the quarterback side of the Raiders, right? So I don't know if that's something I'll be looking to do, is getting Tua out of my lineups as well.
Yeah.
But Tua does offer that rushing upside. I get that he's not Kyler Murray. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not going to put up those kind of numbers. But, I mean, last week he had, 2 touchdowns rushing? Without those 2 touchdowns, he's probably sitting at, 7 or 8 fantasy points, because he had 120 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's important to keep in mind. But, again, I just don't know if there's anybody on the Raiders who's going to be able to do anything here. And one of the things that they're missing is their defensive line, right? They have one guy on their defensive line, and when you don't have chemistry up front, maintaining gap integrity with your tackles and your DNs is very difficult. And that's what Tua is going to take advantage of, right? So if they can just bust out of there, I mean, if you start having one tackle who's getting deeper and making these giant holes for Tua to scramble through, I think there's a pretty good possibility he's rushing for 60 plus today. And remember, Las Vegas is also they're a historically bad run defense, right?
Well, yeah.
They were terrible last year, and they're bad this year too. So I just think the upside that you're going to get, I'm kind of considering it more like the Baltimore Ravens, kind of an offense than I am a passing attack. I think they're going to run a lot of jet sweeps, options, and RPOs tonight, and Tua just has too much upside for me against a shitty defense.
I guess my main question to you is, do we have to have Tua? What are the chances that Tua potentially doesn't end up in the optimal because of the fact that you just might not need him? You know what I mean? Like, we talked about this with Breeze. Breeze did not make the optimal lineup in that game simply because he just wasn't needed. So is this a situation where a team that you think is going to win the game handily, and this rushing defense for the Raiders is so bad? I mean, do they just end up running the ball down their guts, and we end up with 2 or 3 different touchdowns from the running backs? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. But I think we need to account for Tua as part of that running attack, okay. Right? So where we would say maybe, right, Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, they're probably going to get 2 or 3 touchdowns. I would say that you need to throw Drew Brees in, and that's not the case in the Saints game. But tonight, if there's going to be 3 touchdowns from the backfield, I can easily see 2 going to Gaskin and 1 going to Tua on the rushing side.
Got it.
So I think that's kind of my point. And if, this is a playoff clincher. If they win this game, well, let me pull up the playoff picture here. So the the Ravens are 9-5, and then the next team is 7-7, and that's the Raiders. Yeah. So if Miami holds the tiebreaker against Baltimore because of their division record, so if they win today, it's over. So I really think that they're going to try and get to a bit of a rhythm. Yeah. Because they're not going to play anybody next week against Bills if they don't have to. Yeah. And I know I'm kind of using a lot of narrative here, but I think it's stuff to be mindful of in the second to last week before the season. Yeah. Brian Flores and this team, they're overperforming. So if he's going to get an opportunity to rest everybody next week, this is the matchup that you want to fucking ball out on. You're playing the shitty Raiders. So I really think that this isn't a week to fade Tua. I think he is going to be necessary. If he hits 15 points, I mean, let's put it this way. If he hits 15 points and then they're just running the ball all day long, do you think that you're going to be able to win without him being in the lineup?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I'm looking at it this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we can treat this like in the past we've done Lamar, Edwards, Gus, and J.K. Dobbins in the same lineup, and that has been successful. We've done Kyler, Edmonds, Kenyon Drake in the same lineup, and you're just capturing all of that rushing upside as well as any potential random touchdown passes that are thrown. If we think this game can end up with a heavy rushing attack, we could consider Tua, Gaskin, and maybe a third down, Laird or something in this lineup. We can kind of just like what we do with the Patriots too. So this is an interesting idea here. And also, with Showdown, we can pay attention a little bit more to narrative because it's one game. Like narrative in the big picture of a 13-game slate doesn't always matter, but one game you could find a little bit of narrative, and when the narrative is if you win this game, you make the playoffs. I think that's important to consider. All right, let's move over to the running backs for the Dolphins. This will be fun. So let's talk about this. Gaskin at 8,400. You've got Salvon Ahmed at 8,200. Matt Breida, fuck, I don't know. Matt Breida, 1,800. Patrick Laird at 400. Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite here?
If Myles Gaskin plays, Myles Gaskin is my favorite, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, he's probable. So there's really.
I think he's going to play.
Too crazy with this. Yeah. Salvon Ahmed is my replacement if he's out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not touching Breida or Laird, especially if Gaskin plays. I mean, we've already seen Ahmed be kind of the guy that they want to go to when Gaskin is out. Breida and Laird is just like, honestly, like I think he's like he's an attraction. So so you have him there just because he's fun to tout from the DFS side.
Yeah.
Like I just think he's kind of a popular player.
Yeah.
Right, our Laird and savior. But like, look, he's not gonna fucking do anything.
Yeah,
and I get
he's projected for 0 fantasy points right now. So I'm just gonna uncheck him.
Matt Breida, he's the same. I mean, yeah, sure. We've seen what he can do on the fucking 49ers, but again, that's a different team. That's an offense built around the running back.
And he has 0 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I just don't have any interest in him.
So it's Gaskin and Ahmed.
Ahmed for me.
Yeah. So if Gaskin plays, can you put Gaskin and Ahmed in the same lineup? I think they're splitting snaps. When you know what I mean? This is like a Sony Michel. Why am I blanking on the other guys? The young guy's name on the Damian Harris situation if they're both activated. You right? Am I right about that? Gaskin and Ahmed splitting snaps, Breida and Laird and other random dudes coming in for third down. Is that how? Or maybe not even Breida in third down. How is this rotation working out? Like I've watched some of these games. I tried to watch last week. Nothing consistent. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, it's Gaskin. Look, it's Gaskin. Ahmed might be worked into it, but he doesn't really get run unless Gaskin's out. Gaskin is going to be their guy. I mean, look, so if we look at him, I mean, you have week 15, week 11, week 10, and week 9.
All without Gaskin.
And that's my point exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have stats on the weeks that Gaskin's played.
Yeah.
And if we look at Gaskin, I mean, we're talking about 21 attempts, 18, 16.
Yeah.
So
that's a good amount. That's a lot more than we're typically seeing like lately in the NFL. When you're splitting runs, it's usually 15 or less. Even for Kamara, we're getting 15 rush attempts for him in some games. So I think if Gaskin can hit 20 rush attempps, I mean he's a great fucking play in my opinion. And I don't think that he's going to be that high owned simply because he's on the tag.
Yeah, and you're right, and I think kind of breaking it down like this has been helpful for me too. I'm going to be honest. I might have a little bit more interest at Matt Breida at 1,800 specifically. I know he doesn't have a touchdown, but it looks like he might be the third down or the spell back that they're going to use in these situations. So I think he's worth maybe 1 or 2 lineups on in a 20 or something in a large field GPP. But I'm playing kind of smaller contests today. I'm going to try a little bit different strategy there. So I don't think I'm going to end up getting to him.
Yeah.
And given the fact that I'm fading the quarterback for the most part on the other side of the ball, I just don't know if I'll need to take that kind of dip on a salary. But again, to kind of wrap up what my point here, I just think Myles Gaskin is a great play. And honestly, we might need to change my captain slide here. But anyways, we'll get to that.
We can do that. All right. So we're moving over to the Raiders side of things here. Josh Jacobs at 9,800. Been underachieving quite a bit lately, but he still has that upside. I think it's more of a game script thing with him, as well as the rest of his team is not very good. You put Josh Jacobs on any other team, we're talking about a Pro Bowler every single year. I think he's just he's stuck in a relatively not great situation at this point in the season. Earlier in the year and last year, it was amazing for him. But at 9,800, that's an elite running back price. You got Devontae Booker at 1,200 and Jalen Richard at 1,000. So what are your thoughts on the running situation here? Are the Raiders going to be in a position where they can establish the run in this game, or are they going to just have to be chucking the ball down the field because they're possibly going to be playing from behind? Like we've seen great Raiders and we've seen terrible Raiders games. It's almost a roll of the dice, but at this point, considering this part of the year, I think you have to expect probably the bad Raiders to come out, don't you?
Yeah, I think so, but I do want to give some credit to Sean Gruden and his coaching staff. They've been really overachieving, and to be fair, this team is overachieving their season expectations. Nobody really expected them to be in the playoff hunt at any point this season, and the fact that they are is a testament to kind of where they're at.
Yeah.
Their offense does have a little bit of zip to it, so I definitely think that their road to the playoffs begins with really relying on the run game, Josh Jacobs. And given the fact that Derek Carr kind of went through that injury last week,
yeah,
and the success that they saw running the RPO with, Marcus Mariota, I would expect John Gruden to kind of shift back to, Josh Jacobs. He is a workhorse back. He does have the ability to carry a team. I just unfortunately think it is a little bit too late. The Miami defense is not a team that you want to try and establish your run game against, like that reestablish in for the season essentially.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of concerned about his viability just because I to your point, I also think they're going to be down. They are going to have to throw the ball to get involved. But I think that they're going to start this game trying to get a decent amount of attempts to Jacobs and rotating Booker. And I don't know. We saw some Theo Riddick last week, so that's interesting to me. But honestly, all that does is kind of make me shy away more from this backfield. I expect Josh Jacobs to be one of the chalkiest players on the slate. And at 9,800, I'm not that heavily interested in any of these guys back here, especially when you start rotating guys like Theo Riddick in.
Yeah, that was strange. That was strange that he got some play. Yeah.
Now, so to kind of answer your question, and I'm sorry I'm all over the place here, guys, but Josh Jacobs, I'm not sure that I'm going to be getting much of him. I honestly think that they're going to need to rely on him to stay competitive in this game, but there's a certain point at which you can't rely on Josh Jacobs to keep you if Miami's controlling the ball with their run game and their defense is slowing you down, right? You're just going to run out of time. So at a certain point, I think his ceiling becomes a little bit more capped just due to that game script that I'm planning for.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, look, if we're doing 4-2 Miami stacks, I think we're going to have to be careful with going all in on one of these guys. I'm not as comfortable going in on Josh Jacobs. With a 4-2 stack, we're saying that the Dolphins are going to be winning most likely, and the Raiders are going to be playing from behind and not scoring as many points. So to me, I'd rather go with a guy like Waller and rotate out, like heavy on Waller, rotate out, Josh Jacobs and maybe some lower owned guys or some wide receivers, then go heavier on Josh Jacobs. I love Josh Jacobs. I always love Josh Jacobs. But I think this particular game is just a little bit different. I don't know that he can get involved as much as they would want him to. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Here, so not to give away the house, RG has him at over 60%.
Oh, really? You're getting some...
Yeah.
Okay.
And Carr is over 50. So, that's where I'm at with this. I just
interesting.
don't see that it's necessary for some of these guys.
Yeah. All right, so let's move over to the wide receivers for the Raiders here. This is always interesting. The pricing here is so just for wide receivers overall. I think this is where you find this is your key to winning this slate, is finding the right wide receiver combinations, because when it looks, just looking at the Raiders here, Hunter Renfrow I'm sorting this list by projected points, right? So Renfroe at 4,000 is basically projected for the same amount as Aguilar, but he's actually projected a little bit more. So Renfroe's at 4,000. Nelson Aguilar's at 7,200. Henry Ruggs is at 5,200. It looks like Fantasy Cruncher doesn't even have him listed. It looks like he was activated. So I think it's safe to say that he's going to play this game. So Henry Ruggs is at 5,200. Brian Edwards at 200. Zay Jones at 600. I don't know that you need to get too many Brian Edwards or Zay Jones, but Renfroe, Aguilar, Ruggs, I think you gotta try to rotate one of these guys into a lot of your lineups because they're going to be playing from behind, in my opinion. And I mean, look, even if this is a shootout, even if it's a competitive game, Renfroe, Aguilar, and Ruggs need to be involved for them to stay in this game. And so who's your favorite guy here? I mean, Aguilar has been the guy. I mean, he hasn't been one of these guys that you can lock into your lineup every week, but he has the upside. He has 24 plus point or 20 to 25 point upside. And if he has one of those games, you're going to have him in your lineup to win. So who's your favorite guy here?
I think it's Hunter Renfroe at 4K and his projection, and given his initial ownership projection, it doesn't make sense not to have a healthy exposure to him. Nelson Aguilar, I expect his ownership to be a little bit more middling, and kind of what you would expect for a showdown slate, right? Closer to 40%.
Yeah.
And that's just mostly because he's the number one out there, and he has been lately. But I really do not like his matchup. I do not like his matchup at all.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be covered by Xavier Howard. And if you guys don't know who he is, just look up the one-handed interception. You'll see it. One-handed interception, Miami. You'll see it. This defense is something else, man, and I just don't know if Nelson Aguilar is going to be able to get the momentum or the consistency against this type of defense. Hunter Renfroe, I think he causes problems because he has to be lined up in the slot. I'm pretty sure he'd get annihilated if he was on the flank, getting bump and run coverage all day. So he is interesting. He's going to get into these open field opportunities and have an opportunity to make a defensive back miss. So again, at 4K, there's really not much to talk about. Given his projection, his ownership projection, and his pricing, I mean, he's going to be slightly more expensive than a kicker. So I'd rather just have him over a kicker. He's the number 2 guy, and he has the opportunity to bust an 80-yard touchdown.
I mean, Renfroe is like very. If he added it, doesn't have a lot. He has 2 touchdowns this year. Mm-hmm. So like, if he were to add a few more touchdowns to his totals, I mean, you're talking about a guy who gets targeted, up to 9 times a game in some of these situations. More likely, around the 7 targets on average. But he gets 30 to 70 yards almost every single game. He gets 5 receptions, 3 receptions here and there. You're just missing the touchdowns from him. He's just not being targeted in the red zone. Right. And for a guy that's 4,000, I know that's pretty cheap for this slate. But I think you're gonna need one touchdown from him. And I just don't know that he's gonna be the guy to get the touchdown for you. So to me, I'd rather go spend up a little bit with Aguilar since he's at 7,200. Spend up with Aguilar to be different. I think he's good. What does the RG have Aguilar? Potentially
35.
Is that overall or is that in the flex specifically? That's overall, probably.
Overall,
dude, that's way too low for Aguilar. Like, I would consider him as a captain option as well in this game, to be, if you wanted to be real different, and if you're entering the Millie Maker or whatever the biggest contest is tonight, Aguilar at captain is a good option. Low probability of him being the highest scoring guy, but contrarian AF. So let's move over to Miami side here. It's so interesting. Ever since Fitzmagic was benched, the past few years, I've loved playing Miami on main slate. I've loved any Miami showdown slates. Since Tua's come in, it just hasn't been the same. Their passing attack has not been as exciting. They haven't been as high scoring. They're a good team. They're probably better off to have Tua. But, guys like Devontae Parker, I would just play every week. I just jam him in. I love Devontae Parker. And look, Devontae Parker's at 7,600. I know he's been hurting a little bit, Hasn't been too consistent this year. I don't know if that's just a product of his situation with the quarterbacks. You got Lynn Bowden at 4,600. He's been coming on lately. Jakeem Grant, he's questionable, but he's 3,000. Matt Collins, maybe on the lower end, maybe 1 or 2 lineups with him. Probably just 1 or 0. But he's at 2,600. So, Ellie, tell me about Devontae Parker here at 7,600. That's a really good price for him on a showdown slate.
Yeah, I love Devontae Parker at that price. I mean, I love him on the slate anyways. I think he's, again, I just don't know if the Raiders have anybody on the defensive side of the ball that can cover kind of these talented wide receivers. His year's been up and down mostly because of his injury situation. But again, I mean, look at those targets. I don't think you can. I don't think at 7,600 you can not play a guy with 8, 14, 9, 7, 7 targets, right?
Yeah.
That's especially a guy like Devontae Parker. So for me, he's pretty much a stone cold lock. I think I'll have him in every lineup. The only thing that worries me is his injury status. He got injured in the game last week, so if if he's still truly good to go, then I'll have a healthy exposure to him. Now, I think the guy that I'm most interested in overall, though, is Lynn Bowden. It's going to be 100% dependent upon injury status here. But if Parker and Grant, for some reason, don't play, Lynn Bowden should just be dead set lock. And in fact, he becomes an interesting captain play at that price.
Yeah.
So he's going to get targets. And he's going to get rushing attempts. I mean, I think he's officially listed as a running back.
I know he is. On RG, the Gridiron IQ, they have him listed as a running back. I looked at his snaps, and he was like getting 100% of the snaps, like week 14. I was like, wait a second, what the fuck? Oh, he's a wide receiver, but they have him. So I was a little confused there, but that just goes to show he's going to have some rushing opportunity. And you give this guy an end around in the red zone touchdown, like Bobby Trees over there in LA. That just immediately puts you ahead of the curve with a guy like him. And what do you think his ownership's going to come in for him? Around the 30 to 40% overall?
Yeah, I think 30 to 40% is a pretty good estimation just because he's been on an uptick lately. I don't know how I can kind of see this being similar to like a holiday slate where people may not adjust to the news as they should. You could have a lot of people kind of just setting their lineups and going today.
Yeah.
So look, even if Gesicki is out, if one of those 3 guys is out, Lynn Bowden gets a massive boost to usage for me, and I think he becomes a very interesting play. Again, if for like a captain type spot, I think that's more GPPs, like running a fucking 5-man contest. I don't suggest doing that.
Yeah. But of course,
he's a very interesting play, especially at his current projection was around 35%, right? I'm still probably going to have a decent amount of exposure. At 4,600, you can jam pretty much everybody you wanted. So I think we'll see that when we build. But those are really my 2 guys, Parker, Bowden, and then Jakeem Grant's interesting if he plays. He's just getting a little bit pricey. 3,000 isn't bad, but he should probably be closer to the 1,800 mark. The only reason he's not is because he has been getting a little bit more volume with the Parker injury.
Yeah.
So those are the only 3 guys that I plan on playing in this wide receiver core.
Do you feel like you have to get one of these guys in every lineup for the Dolphins?
Yes.
So, like you say, I don't typically set rules that often. I'll do a couple based on the particular slate, but this might be a situation where you want to force one wide receiver / tight end potentially into every lineup for your Dolphins lineups. So let's move over to tight end here. Mike Gesicki, this guy's a great fantasy player here. I think, once again, injuries, the same thing that sort of messed with Devontae Parker this year has probably gotten to Gesicki, but I think Gesicki still had a pretty damn good year, and he's been hot lately. He's had 3 straight games with at least a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns last week. He's getting hot again. We know he has a ceiling. We know it. We know he's a red zone hound. We know he's going to get those targets. So as long as he's healthy, as long as he plays, Gesicki at captain, Gesicki across the board, to me, is amazing. I mean, look, at 6,600, you have a guy that has the potential to get you 30 fantasy points. That's a really, and it's not out of the question. If you look at the box score and saw that he had 2 touchdowns, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So at that price tag, you have to consider, man, who else at that price tag gives me that upside? And who else at that price tag gives me a floor like this? I know that we have some zeros and some 2s and some, some lower scoring games here for him. But I'm pretty confident that, 8 fantasy points as a floor is a pretty good option with him. And you're talking about a guy who will probably, at least if he has a bad game, he's probably gonna not completely bomb. So look, I know you love Gesicki more than I do. Do I have to convince you to play him this week? Or are you just gonna be all in on him, similar to like how I'm gonna be?
Yeah, I don't see how you can't play him at $6,600. It's just an egregious mispricing. Look, Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki, I don't give a shit who the fucking quarterback is. They shouldn't be that cheap. They need to be priced probably $8,400 and then Gesicki closer to $7,400. Right? I don't understand. And just to kind of piggyback where you're going off here, I mean, if for whatever reason Gesicki doesn't play, I think Shaheen and Smythe, or whatever the fuck his name is, become really good, really good options.
Durham Smythe sounds like a fucking bad guy from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Or a jean manufacturer. Durham Smythe Denim. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, look at these numbers. It's not bad for Smythe here. He's a good option at that price tag. I mean, 2,000 seems a little high for him, but he got 5 targets last week with Gesicki out.
Well, see, here's the thing, dude. If one of these guys are injured and we're not really playing much of the quarterback on the other side of the ball, I'm scared to leave like $8,000 on the table. So I think that's what I'm going to be running into here. Is I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to these guys simply because of that.
Yeah.
If Gesicki's not out, I think. Or if Gesicki's out, then again, I think Bowden is the person that we give the biggest boost to. And then we start looking at some of these other really cheap players like Shaheen and Smythe. But yeah, my analysis is play Gesicki.
I like getting. I know we talked about a hard rushing attack in our Dolphins 4-2 stacks, but I don't mind getting. I actually really prefer to get Gesicki and Parker in a lineup, and then pair them with Tua and the running back. You know what I mean? Like one of the running backs. I think that's a very solid 4 stack there. So let's move over to the tight ends for the Raiders. We've got Darren Waller, who's the man. There's no denying that. This guy is a top 3, top 4 tight end in the league. The fact that he plays for the Raiders doesn't help him that much because we're dealing with a team that's not very good right now at this point of the year. But look, Darren Waller is the man. He's going to get a ton of targets. He's really the only thing that's working for this team right now. Look at this, 17 targets, 10 targets, 12 targets in the past 3 weeks. He's got 3 touchdowns. He had a 200-yard game against the Jets. Against the Chargers, he had a 150-yard game. I don't think you have to overthink this guy. I know the Dolphins have a good defense, but at a certain point, it doesn't matter. Like, this guy is that good. He's matchup proof. Darren Waller at 10.6K, I think has to be a priority. Depending on what you guys want to do, if you're doing 3-3 stacks, look, if you want to do a 4-2 Raider stack, if you feel like the Raiders have a chance in this game, you're going to be unique, in my opinion. So like having Waller in a majority of your lineups, I'm okay with just locking him in there. Every single lineup, when I crunch out with, I'll pick my captain, I'll lock my captain, and then in the flex, I'll lock Waller in. And I'll force 4-2 stacks or force 3-3 stacks, and I'll find the best combinations from there. But locking Waller in, to me, is really the only safe play from the Raiders. I just feel the most comfortable about Waller and his opportunities to score multiple touchdowns. You got Jason Witten at 200, worth a shot. I mean, I don't think I'm going to go heavier than one lineup with either of these guys. But Foster Moreau has 2 touchdowns this year. And Foster Moreau, putting Waller and Moreau in a lineup together and for a big contest, I wouldn't suggest doing that if you're doing 4-2. If your only 2 players are going to be Raiders, I wouldn't do that, obviously. But if you're doing onslaughts with Raiders, Foster Moreau is worth a shot. You got a guy who has scored multiple touchdowns this year. It's a dart throw for sure. But, you're going to have to find some edge in this game, and Foster Moreau could be a decent option. So Ellie, are you as high on Waller as I am, and do you like Waller more than Gesicki in this game?
So first of all, your pronunciation is right. I just did look it up. It is Gesicki. So sorry, Mike, if you're watching this, I didn't mean to offend you.
He's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, he is obviously an avid viewer. This is his favorite YouTube show. Anyways, yeah, I don't give a shit about anybody on the Raiders tight end wise other than Darren Waller. He will be in every lineup I have. I won't touch anybody else.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially considering you're heavier on the Saints. There's no reason to fuck around with those other guys. Or did I say Saints? Yeah, I mean Miami. Yeah, same thing, right?
Yeah. Can I put Alvin Kamara at captain? Does that count? Like, can I do that again?
Bro, doing these when we have multiple showdown slates all within a few days of each other, I get things so mixed up. I'm calling players the wrong names. I'm calling teams the wrong team names. All that shit. So forgive us. All right. So anything else to talk about with just play Waller? I think that's the guy you got to focus on from the Raiders. Jacobs, quarterbacks, one of the wide receivers, obviously, but Waller is number one on our list for sure. And I don't think that's some sort of hot take either. That's a pretty obvious thing to say. All right, so wow, we're on kickers and defense already. That's not bad. Are we? Did I miss anything?
20 minutes. No.
Oh, yeah, Cardinals game coming up. Let's finish this shit so we can watch this damn game. Big game. So kickers: Jason Sanders, 3,800. Daniel Carlson, 3,600. Do we need kickers in this game?
No.
I agree. If you've watched the show before, you totally you know what we're gonna say. To me, the kickers are over-owned because of their median projection. If you're crunching out a bunch of lineups, they just show up in so many lineups. I don't think you need them. Their ceiling's low this year. Kickers are not doing well this year. When I was crunching some lineups, that I got multiple Sanders Carlson, in this double kicker lineups, and I don't want anything to do with that in this game. I just don't. It's a 50 total. I don't think there's any reason to have heavy exposure. I think 15% max on either of these guys, potentially 15% max total of both kickers combined, is probably the way to go. So defense here, you got the Dolphins at 5,400, the Raiders at 3,400. I think you just uncheck the Raiders. Don't even worry about them. I mean, unless this is a Bengals situation here where, they have some crazy game. I know it's not, exactly.
It's absolutely not.
So the only thing to talk about here is the Dolphins at 5,400. Is it worth... I think their ownership is going to be higher than it should be, simply because we know the Dolphins can score. We know they have a pretty good dynamic defense. So at 5,400, do we have better options with higher upside? You're going to need multiple interceptions. You're going to need touchdown, either safeties or some sort of big plays from their defense in order to make the optimal.
Yeah, I don't see how you get there. Just to be completely honest with you, I get that they do have a touchdown upside. To be fair, their touchdown upside this year is what? They have 2 total.
I think so.
Defensive touchdowns.
I mean, look, they have a ceiling of the very one season of of outcomes here, but 23 fantasy points is sort of where they can end up. I'd say it's more likely they end up around 12. NFC West. Yeah, exactly.
It's all against the NFC West. So you're playing the AFC West. So I don't know. Maybe you can find some correlation there. I'm just not a big fan, dude. For 5,400, I can spend $1,400 less, get Bowden, and then spend $8 more and get Gesicki. I don't understand why you would land there at 5,400. And given his projection, I think the Dolphins' current projection is a little bit low. I mean, it's
pretty low.
It'll probably come closer to the 20%, but I mean, for me, that's just a bunch of dead lineups. I think I'm learning when it comes to playing the defenses. It's just not worth it unless you can guarantee me a pick six or a kick return touchdown. And even then, it's still iffy.
You have to have a defensive touchdown. I'm not saying that can't happen in this game. It absolutely can. But I would rather go with guys with higher ceilings and not have to rely on these once in every 4 or 5 game sort of outcomes where you get a defensive touchdown. I know with the Dolphins, they probably have more likely to score a defensive touchdown, but the price tag is just too high. I'd rather go with some other players. And you're using, if you're doing 4-2 stacks, you're using up one of these positions that you could be getting, Gaskin, or you can be getting Gesicki. I'd rather just get Gesicki instead in every single lineup. So anything to add? We just broke down all these positions. Any final thoughts on the positional breakdown before we move over to our fade of the night?
No, man. It'll be interesting when we get to building because I want to see how much salary we actually need to make some of these lineups work,
Fade of the night.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
Fuck you, Josh Jacobs. Ellie, tell me about Josh Jacobs. A little ballsy here, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, but it's just massive leverage. I mean, if he's still projected for 70% ownership or whatever the hell he's at, I just don't see this as being a great game script for him to be able to get involved. I understand Miami's defense is better concentrated around the pass game. Their rush defense is middling. I don't think that they're going to be able to have the opportunity to stay in this game. So I don't think that Josh Jacobs is going to be able to hit that ceiling performance that you're going to need from him at that kind of ownership to really pay off that tag.
Yeah, I feel you. It's a straight up leverage play. This is one way that if you fade Jacobs, you can do whatever the hell else you want in your lineups for the most part. You don't have to worry about punting at two positions potentially. I'm more likely to embrace Jacobs and Waller in this game, but I'm going to be heavier on Waller than I am on Jacobs. So for me, Salmon Head, he's a good option if Myles Gaskin does not play, but I think we all expect Gaskin to play, and I think that really lowers Ahmed's usage and his opportunities by quite a bit. And at that price tag, only $200 cheaper than Gaskin, I don't think there's any reason to play him more than what his projected ownership is, potentially going half the field. Look, if he comes in because of the news, if the field is reacting to the news the same way I am, and he comes in at like freaking 15% owned, then maybe I might actually have some doubles, like some Gaskin Ahmed lineups together, because of that ownership is going to be insanely low. You're immediately unique, and you're capturing all the rushing attempts, most likely all the rushing attempts for a team that's favored. So that's an interesting option, but for now I'm leaning more towards Ahmed as of my fade. So let's go to Crown Their Ass segment here.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going with Mike Gesicki. Talk to me.
Look, he's priced too cheaply for me. Obviously, if he's hurt, I'm not fucking doing that. But if he does play, he's just a great option at his price tag. You can do whatever you want on the offensive side of the ball. And just to be quite frank, I mean, if there are passing touchdowns, it's going to be Devontae Parker or Mike Gesicki. So
yeah,
I honestly think this is the slide that matters for tonight the most, simply because these are one of the two guys that are going to get the points, unless it's just Myles Gaskin going off. So that's my only note there. I think he is a valuable potential captain play, but I definitely think his ownership will be pretty high if he's fully rolled in as the starter or whatever. So
yeah,
Gesicki is my guy right now. I'll probably have some Parker and Gaskin exposure.
So both of these guys are questionable. So obviously this is subject to change. Keep an eye on ownership, or I'm sorry, keep an eye on the inactives when they come out. But I think they're leaning more towards playing. Look, for me, Devontae Parker has that upside. He has, he's a top 5 wide receiver talent-wise in the NFL, in my opinion. I just think he needs the right situation. He needs to be healthy. So for me, a guy like this at that price, at $7,600, is insane. He's the highest. He's only $400 more expensive than Aguilar. So look, if the field agrees with me and he comes in over 10% in the captain, I might have to lean more towards Gesicki or Gaskin. But look, I have a feeling, in my opinion, I think Devontae Parker can come in around 7% in the captain. And if that's the case, I think his upside is just too high. You can't avoid it, and you can get the best players in the flex because he's at 7,600. I really, really like both of these guys. And like I said, if you wanted to, I think Waller will be very high owned in the captain because he's, he has high upside as well. But like a guy like Nelson Aguilar, or, if you want to go to the other side of the ball, Aguilar or Jacobs at captain is an option too. I would prefer Jacobs in the captain more than in the flex, simply because I think, we've said this before, if he goes off, he goes off. So I'd rather just have him in the captain. All right, let's move over to a lineup build here. Let's bust this out relatively quick. Let's get the lineup here. All right. So who do you want to start with? Gesicki?
Yeah, let's do it. Dude, we can do whatever we want with these guys. Okay, yeah, let's start with Gesicki. And then
Tua?
I want Gaskin and Tua. Yeah, and Waller. I mean, it'd make it pretty simple.
Wow, that's pretty nice, though. That's pretty nice so far here. Yeah, look at this, dude. We still have 5,350 remaining per player. I mean, this is insane.
Now, throwing Parker.
Oh, dude, yes, I love this. Now we got to go a little bit on the lower end at 3,100. Let's get a Raiders player at around that price. Who can we get? No one. Devontae Booker go way down, but I don't want to do that.
Let's swap out Parker for Bowden.
All right. Bowden Jr. That leaves us with 6,100. I like that. So that puts us at Henry Ruggs or Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah. I mean, look, either one of those guys are fun to me.
This has your higher upside with Ruggs. You have the higher touchdown potential with like a home run, like maybe 3 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown sort of a day. Hunter Renfrow is more of a 7 receptions for 42 yards and that's it. So if you're playing like a single entry or something, obviously I don't think you'd have Gesicki in the captain, but Renfrow is more of a cash single entry play, and Ruggs is more of a GPP large field tournament play. You can go Carlson here if you really think that this game's going to get out of hand. You can go Carlson, but I think you could do whatever the hell you want, like legit. You could even go low. Let's try to find a value, like a really good value play on Miami, and see if we can get like Jacobs or Aguilar for Vegas. You know what I mean? Is there anybody that sticks out to you that's a little bit? I mean, Jakeem Grant, Breida. Like, would you be comfortable with Jakeem Grant here if he plays, considering his ownership is going to be pretty low?
Honestly, yeah, I'm actually fine with it. I mean, at 3K, that's not terrible, and you'll be able to probably. I mean, at 7,700, we should be able to get.
What if we did this? Look, let's try a different game script here. Let's pull Gaskin out. We like Gaskin, but let's put Devontae Parker in this lineup, and then let's go with the backup running back for Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, so Breida, I'm not high on Breida, but look, we're looking for that 1 touchdown opportunity. So this is an option, and then if we have 9,700, we can get Carr, can you get Jacobs here? Oh, dude, we're $100 off of Jacobs. That sucks. But you can get Carr. No, you can't get Carr.
Well,
all right, so this is a weird little situation.
What if we come off Waller and put in Carr? Can we get Jacobs?
Let's see. Yeah, we can. So you can do that. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. So Carr and Jacobs. Yeah, I don't hate this at all. I don't hate this. I think you got to really play with it.
That's obviously a deep JPP because I don't know if I don't want to have Waller, but I mean it's definitely viable.
I mean, you could get a lot of leverage without Waller. I think that's the point here. But I don't know that I want to do that. That's just dumb, Yeah. All right, so let's go with Devontae Parker here. Obviously, we're building with guys who are questionable, so hear us out. If these guys are ruled out, pivot off of it. Obviously. Now with Parker, we probably want to have Tua and Gaskin, right?
Yeah, and Bowden, man. Like honestly, I think this is the lineup where you take Bowden and kind of fade Gesicki.
Okay,
Gesicki.
Got it. So, can we afford Waller here? 4,600. We're back to the same area here with Renfrow, or you go with Daniel Carlson. Or, I mean, if you wanted to go way down, you could. But, like, this is kind of how these builds are going to go if we're doing 4-2s. There's no one in this 3K range for the Raiders that we would really want to play, minus the kicker.
What if you went Jakeem Grant over Bowden? What does that change anything really here?
Let's check.
Yeah.
So Grant at 3K. That leaves us with 6,200.
So we need
Henry Ruggs. It's the same situation. Ruggs or
Yeah.
Renfro, pretty much. Those are our only options with these kind of builds.
No, makes sense.
Look, let's try this. So hear me out on this. Let me pull out Tua. Let's just see what building without Tua does. So let's get Gesicki. I mean, first of all, if we don't have Tua in this lineup with Parker and the captain, and we have two other pass catchers, that's just so negatively correlated. Can we actually get there without Tua if we did this?
Not with Gesicki.
We need to throw a running back.
So that's why I like Bowden, is just because he does get the rushing attempts as well.
I hear you.
I mean, so
what if we did a 3-3 here?
I'm fine with it. Yeah. I mean, Devontae Parker at the captain, I mean, he's going to be so low on. I think everybody's going to be on Derek Carr, bro. Like, Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller.
So we got Parker, Bowden Jr., and Gaskin as our 3 Miami. We have Waller. Let's get one with. Can we do Jacobs? Let's see if we can get Jacobs and Waller. That leaves us 5,200 for Henry Ruggs, for this is a sick lineup because look, I feel like building DraftKings has forced us into a 3-3 in a lot of situations. Either 3-3 or you leave 2,000 or 3,000 on the table, which I'm fine with. You can leave 2,000 or 3,000 on the table, but is that 2,000 or 3,000? Is the projection cost that you're going to get? You're losing amount of projected points by going from Ruggs down to let's
Daniel
see,
Carlson, literally anybody.
Yeah, you're losing a lot of points by doing that. So I think 3-3s might end up being more necessary with certain build types and certain captains. I really like this a lot. You got Jacobs, Waller, Ruggs. You've faded both quarterbacks. And we've seen in the past, you can get there if you fade both quarterbacks. It's a certain type of game script, obviously. But this is a nice large field GPP throw here with Parker, who is a guy who can score you 2-3 touchdowns in a game, no question. All right. So anything else to add to this, Ellie? Any changes you want to build with another guy, or what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, look, I think the building process is a little bit different on this one. We're just trying to get a feel of what we're going to be able to build and kind of what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to find out who we're kind of forced to play because, again, we're saving salary in that captain spot. So if we're forced to play these certain guys, then we can kind of identify what those people running the Darren Waller captain are really going to have to play to play the game, right? And it just gives us a little bit more insight on how to be contrarian.
Yeah.
And normally I'd be okay with like trying to build a backup one on this slate, but just clear and transparent. If you're not paying attention to the injury situation tonight, it's not going to fucking matter what you do because your lineups will probably be dead. If one of these 3 guys are out at any point, you need to change your strategy. But other than that, man, good luck tonight, guys, and comment on our shit. Let us know if you have a different insight, different opinion.
Yeah, please throw us a like. We really appreciate it. Subscribe. Join our Discord if you want some more insight. We can be chatting during the game, before the game, all that stuff. We'll show you our exposures, everything like that. Ellie, send us out with the final score, and send us out with your favorite captain now that we've built one, or built 2.
My favorite captain is still Gesicki, but final score, I'm going to go 27-13.
That's crazy.
Miami.
That's crazy. I was going to say 27-14 Miami.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, so we appreciate everything. Throw us a like. And when's our next show? We're going to do a Sunday. Oh, yeah. We're going to do a Sunday night show. There's Sunday night football this week, right? I'm assuming. Yeah,
someone plays.
Someone plays. We'll figure it out.
They're already trying to get me. Look, honestly, this might be the last week of good football that we get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we need to take advantage of it.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. And, stay tuned for our Sunday night football game that we're going to shoot tomorrow morning. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot, guys.